Happy Wednesday, and welcome back to GLBC Connections as we continue to walk through the Gospel of Mark. Today, we're going to continue in Mark chapter 5. In fact, today we're going to continue the story that Pastor John began this past Monday. So if you have not had an opportunity to watch John's devotional from Monday, I strongly encourage you to stop this video, to watch his video, and then come back here. Because the portion of scripture that we're going to be reading together today is a part of the story that John began on Monday. And it'll make a lot more sense if you have the background that John provides. Well, John used the story of the 1989 student protests at Tiananmen Square. And he used the example of this solitary figure who is affectionately referred to as Tank Man, how he jumps out in front of this parade of military tanks and stands before them, bringing this military parade to a halt. The video reveals that Tank Man climbs one of the tanks and he has some interaction with the people within the tank, and then he jumps down. But as the parade continues to move forward, he jumps in front of the tank again, until he is escorted away, never to be heard from again. People don't know who Tank Man was. They don't know what happened to Tank Man. In fact, if you watch some later analysis of Tiananmen Square, as people reflect back upon that incident, a lot of people in China know nothing of the event whatsoever. So we will probably never know what happened to Tank Man. But I would like us to use our imagination today. I would like us to think about two possible outcomes that could have come from this dramatic moment. On the one hand, Tank Man could have been overwhelmed with fear. Here he came face to face with the powers. Here he came face to face with this authoritarian government that sought to oppress him and other protesters. And out of this fear, he could have just disappeared. He could have gone away. He could have been silenced. He could have said, I came face to face with the powers and I didn't like what I saw. I didn't like what I heard, and I never want to do that again. So I'm just going to fly under the radar, submit to their authority, and go about my life. That would be a response of fear, a response of silence. Fear because he had no power over them. Fear because he could not control the power of this regime. But there'd be a second possible response. The second possible response would be that Tank Man would be empowered. That Tank Man would continue to protest. That Tank Man would continue to let his story be known so that he could become an ambassador for democracy, an ambassador for freedom, one to whom other people would look to for guidance and for direction about standing up for their rights and standing up for freedom. Tank Man could have become a voice for the oppressed. Tank Man could have pointed protest movements within China and around the world in the right direction to make a difference. Well, as we go back to Mark chapter 5, that's exactly what we see as a result of this confrontation that Jesus has with this man who is overwhelmed with a legion of demons within him, and how this man is completely out of control, so out of control that the people of that area cannot constrain him. But Jesus does, and Jesus casts out these unclean spirits, sends them into a herd of unclean pigs, and they find themselves running off a cliff and drowning. As a result of this interaction of Jesus, there are two distinct reactions. The first reaction is from the townspeople, beginning in Mark 5, verse 14. Those tending the pigs ran off and reported this in the town and countryside, and the people went out to see what happened. When they came to Jesus, they saw the man who had been possessed by the legion of demons sitting there, dressed and in his right mind, and they were afraid. Those who had seen it told the people what had happened to the demon-possessed man and told about the pigs as well. Then the people began to plead with Jesus to leave their region. Do you see that they are afraid because of what Jesus has done? And not afraid in a good way, as if someone who fears God. They are afraid. And we don't know exactly why they're afraid. Maybe they're afraid because it seems that Jesus has brought about economic devastation to their area. I mean, to lose a herd of 2,000 pigs would have tremendous economic consequences, negative economic consequences. Or maybe they were afraid because this man whom they could not constrain has been overpowered by this Jesus. This power, the power and the authority of just this Jesus is greater than that demon-possessed man. But it was another man they couldn't control. It was another man to whose power they had to submit. And they were afraid. They just wanted Jesus to leave. But there's a second reaction from the man himself, beginning in verse 18. As Jesus was getting into the boat, the man who had been demon-possessed begged to go with him. Jesus did not let him, but Jesus said to him, "Go home to your own people and tell them how much the Lord has done for you and how he has had mercy on you." So the man went away and began to tell in the Decapolis how much Jesus had done for him, and all the people were amazed. The townspeople wanted Jesus to live. They didn't want to see Jesus again. They wanted nothing to do with him. But the man who had experienced Jesus' grace, the man who had experienced Jesus' mercy, the man who had experienced the freedom that only Jesus provides, he wanted to become an ambassador. He wanted to become an ambassador for Jesus. He goes around the Decapolis, this Gentile area, telling people about Jesus and telling people about what Jesus has done for him, and telling them that Jesus has the power to do the same for them. Two very different reactions to Jesus. One is a reaction of fear that wants to say, "Jesus, I can't control you. I don't understand you. Get away from me." And a reaction that says, "Jesus, I have experienced your grace. I have experienced your mercy. I have experienced the benefits of your power. Let me be with you and let me tell others about you." All throughout the Gospel of Mark, Jesus is answering two questions. Who is Jesus? And what does it mean to follow him? Pastor John's part of the story really emphasized the question, who is Jesus? Again, Jesus is one who has authority. Jesus is one who has power. Jesus is one who makes the unclean clean. But the verses we read today really address the second question. What does it mean to follow him? And it is the demon-possessed man who has the right response to Jesus. A desire to be with Jesus, a desire to follow Jesus, and a desire to tell the world about what Jesus has done for him. I think the Gospel of Mark would ask us today, what reaction do we have to Jesus? Are we like the townspeople? Or are we like the demon-possessed man who want to go out and make Jesus known? What is your reaction to Jesus Christ?